Hey there, Pythonistas. Welcome to the School of Tomorrow. I'm on a MacBook Pro of some vintage that I rescued from a sort of a shopping mall supermarket place called Fubon here in Portland. And my monitor wants to update its software. It's amazing how all these timelines appear when you start using stuff. So what I'm going to do in this fairly short video, I'm going to go back to, if you've seen this previous video, good. If you haven't, don't worry. I'm just going to demystify or talk a little bit about what is an object, what is a type, what is an object, and what is a Pandas DataFrame. So a Pandas DataFrame, I'll start with that, is a very popular type this time, these days. Like my friend in the neighborhood whose dogs I'm taking care of, the reason I'm taking care of his dogs is he's gone all the way to New York City to help be a part of some like marathon study session or tutorial or whatever where everyone gets to learn about these Pandas data frames, right? And that's just because, and this is not like the first time that a technology has become important. Remember spreadsheets? If you go back a ways, when Lotus 123 first came out, and then there were others, right? So the whole idea of spreadsheet became a meme. And that's happened over and over. The word processor, that was a whole new idea after the typewriter, which is still used in some situations, but you have to admit most of this stuff has gone to the screen for now. So here we are, we're at our location. This is the file on the left that we ran before. It's two Python generators of type generator. So these are both source code for objects that are of a certain type, and it's just because of how they're written that they come out of that type. Like the yield, keyword yield, there's like 33 keywords in Python. I often show that, by the way. I go import keyword, and I think it's not plural. I could be wrong here, and it took a while. And now I just want to say keyword KW list, and that's going to tell us all the keywords in Python. It's a little bit, well, this is 3.6 right now, so I'll be hopping to 3.8 one of these days soon, I think. I'm not sure if they're going to put the sync and like there's a sync, SYNC, but it's not here. It's you've got to be in a certain namespace to even use that keyword, I think. So let's run the code on the left. And I was just saying, you know, there's types of thing in Python. So it's just like in the real world. The reason we don't need to explain it a huge amount is because it's how English already works, which is what I'm speaking, but probably in your language you have the same idea that the type of thing is the generic, like any car, any dog, any cat. It's like the whole idea of a cat without saying which cat. You're not trying to talk about any particular cat, you're just talking about the cat type in general, right? The cat versus the dog type. We're always comparing them and so forth. So in object-oriented programming, we have a tree, you could say, of types. And we can actually add to that tree, we can make our own types. So that's what's happening over on the left here. Now the last type I create at the bottom is a Pandas data frame. So at the very top I go import pandas as PD. And to make this table, I just have to, in this last line, I have to decide what I want to actually do in this module. Like I want to accumulate like 100 rows on this table. And by table, I mean a Pandas data frame. Now this is a type, just like a cat or a dog or one of those, that you're not going to find just because you are running Python. You boot it in Python, you started up Python, 3.6 in this case. There's no pandas to be seen. I'm not talking about keywords either. I'm just saying in general. When you first boot into Python, if you're curious, what you really do kind of just start out with, like the chips on the board, what you get to play with right off the bat, is a pretty nice long list of lowercase things. And some of these are types, quite a few of them in fact. Others are functions. There are different things here. But that's kind of your toolbox booting in. Now the uppercase things tend to be warnings and errors, which is like when you bump into a limitation. Your syntax is wrong, your environment is messed up. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and Python right out of the box is prepared to let you know what's the problem. But you'd expect that. It's like feedback to you, the user, you, the developer. The subject of this world, the person who's operating in this world, is pretty technical. I mean, they're already proficient in some technical way, because that's the environment that Guido von Rossum invented or inherited when he showed up at this Dutch like think tank or research center and took over developing ABC, which was used in house, and he decided that was a good role model going forward for something ABC like that was interactive. For one thing, you could talk to it. That's a big difference in computer languages right off the bat. Is it designed that you can have a conversation? Now I made the same error I made before, is I made a nice big data table and I didn't save it anywhere, so it was gone into the ether, we could say. So D now is our Pandas DataFrame. So let me just give you 2 minutes more. I got this far before, really. I showed you that we have the head, and now let me show you there's the tail. So it's a type of object, and that means that it has its own set of controls. And the way we get at the controls of any type through a specific instance of one of those. So like this is a specific dog or cat now. This lowercase d created over here on the left on line 51, D is actually of the type data table. So we should look at its type. We should actually ask, what is the type of D? And we get back down here, it's one of those data frames, Pandas DataFrame. What they're sitting around in New York right now really working on learning more, because it's become important in the same way spreadsheets are important. It's an object that in a lot of ways is like a spreadsheet. In other words, it has rows and columns. Let's see if I can get the names of those columns. So there's shell and cumulative. So that implies that if I do d.shell, it'll spit back a common set of numbers that you can look up. And they are indexed independently. 1, 2, 3, there's 0 as the starting point. So there's a d.shell, there must be a d.cumulative as well. d.cumulative. So you basically address these things. There's other ways to get at the columns, but the columns are the logical subunits, not so much the rows. The columns are the components of the Pandas DataFrame. And this too is like a spreadsheet. If you've used a spreadsheet, you know what I'm talking about, in that as you go out column by column, each column has its own sort of content type. Like, am I integers, this column? Is this some names of people or companies? Are they strings? In other words, words, numbers, words, dates, these broad categories. And then within those broad categories, there's a lot of formatting. And so that whole idea carries over to the Pandas DataFrame. Now, in case you're curious about what these numbers really are about, in this case, they're sphere packing numbers and cumulative and per shell. And I'll just quickly go show you what that looks like. We'll go out to Chrome. Where we were yesterday was at the Japanese-American Friendship Garden. So we were, okay, so I have to get out of full screen mode here if I have any interest in showing you this. So let's see, view, full screen mode, I'm in full screen mode. Shrink it down. Can I bring this? So how do I get this over? All right, folks, I got kind of lost in that take. we'll see you next time. School of tomorrow. School of tomorrow. See you then.